we have Senator Ted Cruz, who's going to join us just outside that hearing room. Senator Cruz, first of all, your impressions of today and the witnesses.
Well, I thought today was a very good day. The witnesses, it was interesting. The American Bar Association testified, and they said every person they spoke to spoke about Judge Barrett's incredible intellect, her principle, her kindness, her compassion. It was as positive a testimony as I've ever seen from the ABA. And they have a long history, unfortunately, of favoring Democratic nominees over Republicans, and so that was particularly meaningful, the testimony we heard today. And then a panel of witnesses that gave moving personal testimony. You mentioned Ms. Walk, who is blind, who was a student of Judge Barrett's at Notre Dame, and who Judge Barrett really mentored and helped become the first blind law clerk in history at the U.S. Supreme Court. I thought her testimony was really powerful as well. Everyone's testimony, they shared personal stories that were meaningful. And it's clear that we are moving directly towards confirming Judge Barrett as Justice Barrett.
Yeah, I spoke of her. Her name is Laura Wolk, as you did. I'm very moved by that on a whole host of levels. Put all politics aside, and that is the child that grows up to be the adult that all of us wish we could have, right?
Absolutely.
You know, I did notice before we get to the next topic, let me just stay here on the hearing with you for just a second, because today was just so different. Obviously, Judge Barrett not in that hearing room, but we got to see a lot during that executive meeting that wasn't even about what we were expecting to see today, and a tenor and tone that seemed to be senators wanting to work together. What's it like in that room knowing that, as Senator Booker said of New Jersey, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion. You're going to get this justice through. He just had other things to say.
Well, look, at this point, we're 19 days away from Election Day. Everyone recognizes there's going to be an election, and we're going to decide the direction of the country. Unfortunately, it means right now Democrats are not interested in working with Republicans on anything. They're not interested in voting to confirm Judge Barrett. They're not interested in working together on COVID relief. It's campaign season, and so they're behaving accordingly, and that's the nature of the beast. We'll get past this election. I hope it's a good election. I hope the president is reelected and we see Republican majorities in both houses. And I hope then we actually see Democrats willing to work with Republicans and vice versa to bring this economy back and get people back to work.
Well, Senator Kennedy of Louisiana said, look, maybe we can get something on the floor in terms of coronavirus bill, kind of putting that back out to Democrats. And Senator Booker, okay, if you're really serious, let's go try to do this. Speaking of serious, there was a little bit of you caught in a hallway outside that hearing today, and you were quite passionate about what needs to happen with social media after what looks to be, and what some are calling censorship, a New York Post article that came out on Hunter Biden, the son of the presidential candidate for Democrats, Joe Biden. What exactly is going on?
Well, it's actually two different New York Post articles. So yesterday, the New York Post had an article putting forth new evidence of corruption of Hunter Biden and Joe Biden concerning Ukraine. And Twitter and Facebook decided to censor that article. They decided if you tried to tweet that article, they would block your tweet. You'd instead get a warning sign that this is dangerous material. They actually went so far as to censor the New York Post itself, to prevent the New York Post from tweeting about their own article. Then today, the New York Post had a second story about evidence indicating corruption, again in the Biden family, this time concerning communist China, and the Bidens receiving millions of dollars from communists in China. I was sitting in the hearing this morning and tried to tweet the story because it raises very serious questions. And again, Twitter blocks it. You can't tweet the story. And let me be very clear. Twitter is interfering in this election. They are censoring the press. I don't know if these New York Post stories are accurate or not, but the New York Post, it has the fourth largest circulation of any newspaper in America, and right now Jack Dorsey is just behaving as Joe Biden's press secretary. It is censorship, it is wrong, and what I announced today is the Senate Judiciary Committee on Tuesday will be voting to subpoena Jack Dorsey to come before the Judiciary Committee and testify next Friday and answer questions as to why he's interfering in this election and why he is censoring the press and trying to hide Joe Biden from any scrutiny or any allegations of corruption.
Senator Cruz, there is a lot to unpack there. So I first want to get to this part.
Sure.
You say you don't know if the New York Post reporting is accurate or not, but you wanted to retweet that. And that's really where we are. I mean, we're all kind of doing our good diligence as journalists to follow up. A lot of times the story will come and people will question sources, so on and so forth. And so we will do the same thing here at Fox. But meanwhile, the White House press secretary was blocked. You're telling me you were blocked for trying to retweet a second article in the New York Post today during a hearing. So I just want to drill down on exactly what this means for the American people so that they don't just think it's about you in the Beltway and people at the White House.
Well, look, if you try right now, and I did this morning, you can go Google, if you type in New York Post, Biden and China, you'll come up with a story today raising serious allegations. If you try to tweet it right now, Twitter will block you from tweeting it. They blocked the story. You're not allowed to point to a story in a major media outlet. And listen, and by the way, Twitter and Facebook, they don't do this for all of the attacks on Donald Trump. You know, the New York Times claims to have his tax records, wrote article after article about his taxes. Of course, nobody's seen them, but they say they have them. Twitter and Facebook didn't block you from tweeting on that. The Steele dossier, now totally debunked, all sorts of scurrilous sex allegations about the president. People tweet about that all the time. But when it comes to Joe Biden, Twitter has decided that they are using their multi-billion-dollar monopoly power to try to silence all discussion and keep the voters ignorant. It is big tech censorship has always been bad. But they really crossed a line in the last 24 hours. I'm not aware of their previously actively censoring major press outlets. It's not really any different than Twitter blocking Fox News from sending out a story. Look, Fox News may be right or wrong, the New York Post may be right or wrong, but silencing the media is a direct violation of the principles of the First Amendment.
So when you say you want to talk to Jack Dorsey of Twitter,
yes,
and you want to subpoena him to come and testify next Friday, what do you want to ask him?
Well, Lindsey Graham, the chairman of the committee, he and I agreed that we're going to have a business meeting on Tuesday to vote on the subpoena and to have Dorsey subpoenaed to come on Friday and to ask, well, what are your standards, Mr. Dorsey? Why are you choosing to silence this media story and not other stories? How do you determine who gets to speak in America and who doesn't? And how do you get to decide that you can use your corporate treasury to give what is in effect a multi-million-dollar campaign donation to the Biden campaign just 19 days out from an election? We're seeing Silicon Valley billionaires, frankly, drunk with power.
Senator Cruz, what do you say then when you see a conspiracy theory retweeted? Is that something you want to ask Jack Dorsey about, too? I mean, you know the difference between what is true and what is right and what is wrong and what is untrue. You may not be able to source everything that media outlets source, but I'm just wondering if those to you are in different categories, conspiracy theories and things that don't have the kind of sourcing we would hope for in a New York Post article.
Listen, I believe in free speech, and I agree with John Stuart Mill, who said the best cure for bad speech is more speech. So I'm not here asking for anyone to censor Bernie Sanders or AOC or some socialist. I think what they're arguing for is ridiculous. But I'd much rather engage on the substance, on the merits, on the facts. So if people tweet crazy stuff, fine. Let speech occur. Now, that's very different from something that is a criminal threat or a criminal assault. There are exceptions for that. But in terms of, we don't need Silicon Valley behaving like the Star Chamber and censoring to make sure only the political views they agree with are the only things allowed to be said.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's pulling a whole lot of people from all sorts of corners in society together, that idea of more speech is better.
Yeah.
Senator Ted Cruz, I know you have a full day, and we appreciate you stepping outside that hearing, which has taken a break. Good timing for us on Outnumbered Overtime to get you to talk a little bit about what's gone on in there and what you have coming up with Senator Graham on Tuesday, Twitter, and the like. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Harris.